Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Roar Lions Roar. I'm your host, Bill DeFilippo, and joined today by my co-host, Nick Pollock. Nick, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just sitting here hoping that my child does not wake up early from his nap so we can finish this podcast.
I was going to say, there's not nothing much going on. You have something very
Well, that's true.
serious going
Nothing
on.
much.
Yeah.
Nothing much, I guess, in the colloquial sense. But yes, the Seattle Mariners will be playing to go up 3-0 tonight in the American League Championship Series. And of course, I will be there.
Are you a mess over that yet, or are you pretty normal at the time we're doing this?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I guess being up 2-0 gives you a little cushion, and not having a loss in the record really helps. Something that James Franklin learned the hard way recently. Of course, we're doing this podcast, now 3 days after the news that Penn State fired James Franklin. We're going to get into that a little bit, just kind of how our thoughts have evolved since then. And then, of course, Nick, are you like me where you have kind of forgotten that Penn State doesn't just play a football game this weekend, but plays like the worst football game to possibly play this weekend?
I haven't forgotten, but I certainly don't really care that much.
There will be times when I'm just like sitting here getting work done and I'm like, oh yeah, they go to Iowa. Jesus Christ, they go to Iowa with a backup quarterback on Saturday night on Peacock. So we're going to be talking about that game a bit. It turns out this is like, in my thinking of this, I've come to realize this is like a gigantic game for Penn State wanting to be bowl eligible. But we'll get back to that in a second. Again, we're 3 days into Penn State moving on from James Franklin. In the time since that's happened, Penn State's future recruiting classes have kind of fallen apart, kind of haven't fallen apart. Pat Kraft has spoke to the media. Terry Smith, the interim coach, spoke to the media. He's going to speak again to the media a little bit later tonight when Penn State has its open practice. So we'll see what ends up coming from that. Nick, we've had a little bit of time to sit with this, digest this, think a bit about the fact that Penn State is now entering this unknown of what the future of the program is going to be looking like. How do you feel compared to how you felt when we did this podcast on Sunday?
In some way, I'd say in most ways the same. I was bummed on Sunday. Overall, it was just a bummer to see the way that this ended for the James Franklin era. It's not how it should have ended. Not how it was supposed to end. But obviously, then seeing all of the different players, both current and former, reacting on Twitter and Instagram or wherever it's been tough to read. And then hearing or reading through Nick Dawkins's quotes about how they're, how the guys in the locker room, like, they feel like they failed him and all that. It's unavoidable. But you knew it was coming, but it's still tough. It's still tough to see. You don't want those guys to feel like that. There's so much more that was a part of the decision, clearly, than just these games. These games didn't help, but clearly there was more into it. And it's tough to see them predictably shouldering that load the way that they are. Obviously, James Franklin meant a ton to them, to every player that's come through this program. He's always been an extremely relationship driven guy. So that he has deep ties to every single kid that's come through this program. So that's been tough. But to kind of flip it to the other side of things, thinking about the coaching search, I think overall the things that we have, at least heard so far from Pat Kraft, have given me more hope that they really will conduct a thorough, real coaching search and not just hire Matt Rule the second the clock hits zero on Nebraska's season. Obviously, public comments, who knows? They're not really worth much in the end. I did really enjoy, though, Pat Kraft's answer to the question about Drew Aller and what he means to the Penn State program. That was really cool to see. Fully agree with everything he said too. So it's still very strange. I don't know if Penn State. Grant, I don't know when the last time Penn State fired a coach was. to be honest, or at least fired in this way.
Yeah, I was going to say the last time they fired a coach, it was we were
right.
in college, Nicholas.
Let me rephrase. They're fired a coach in this way for on-field football performance reasons, and that's all we'll talk about that. So yeah, just it's a weird space we're in, but I'm excited to see the team get out there on Saturday at least.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I like my big overarching thing that I've just kind of like been laughing at is the sheer number of people who are like, well, I just can't believe Penn State would fire James Franklin when like it's been hilarious. Like I have a lot of very complex thoughts about Penn State firing this, the timing of it, all these sorts of things. It's pretty obvious to me that a big reason why Penn State fired James Franklin is because they just like hit such a hard ceiling that everybody saw and talked about and let define the entire program, externally especially, that it just kind of became untenable. And we're now in a spot where like, yeah, all the good stuff that Franklin, like this is a thing that a lot of Penn State fans were trying to tell all you people about. A lot of Penn State fans were saying Franklin took a Penn State job at the really bad time. He did a really great job building Penn State up. He's consistently winning games, consistently getting that. Like Penn State fans have been saying that forever, even the ones who aren't super on board with James Franklin. So it has been absolutely wild to see the people who did the whole like, we can't win the big game, he's going to lose to Ohio State or blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, like, concern troll Penn State, basically, over the fact that they fired him. You mentioned that it's been something seeing how the players have reacted, and that's, like, that's been really wild. Like, obviously, they were going to be very upset they lost their coach, but I think Nick Dawkins, if I remember correctly, just straight up said that, like, the guys were feeling a sense of guilt over losing their coach. And it's just like, God almighty. Like it's been very clear basically from the first snap of the season how much everything about this season has been weighing on the guys. And to see them see someone like Nick Dawkins, who is just like such a smart dude who does such a great job represent the program, say the word guilt, that's going through the locker room right now. And like football is second in those situations because you're dealing with a bunch of human beings and how they're processing something like this. But like when it comes to what they're doing on the field, like you almost wonder if like this gives them something to rally around, if this gives the guy, because it would be very easy for all of them to say, well, we all came back to win a national championship. We might make the Quick Lane Bowl. We might make the Music City Bowl, whatever they're calling them these days, if we're lucky. Let's just not care. And they now like have something to rally around and something to play for. And it's like it's something that I find really interesting. And I think something that we're going to find out about really quickly this weekend. I also don't know about you, Nick, but I like underestimated how much I just got used to James Franklin, like having some level of presence in my life. Like, dude, you might not be like this, but maybe you were back when you covered recruiting more closely, but like, I know I did. I think you might have. Like, I just had push notifications on Twitter on for James Franklin for when the blog was a thing, because he would tweet when there's a new recruit, boom, we got to get on it. Like, we have to get on that. And I just never turned those off because why not? And I didn't realize how much like the beat of my week revolved around at 12 o'clock on Monday or Tuesday, James Franklin's going to talk to the media. At 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on Wednesday, James Franklin's going to talk to the media. He's going to tweet things throughout the week that I'm going to see on my phone. Like when I saw the football program wished Aaron Enterline happy birthday yesterday, and it wasn't, I want to say happy birthday to a member of our family, Aaron Enterline. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. I really did not realize just how much of like a presence James Franklin had in my life. And I'm just some guy.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine what that must be like for the guys in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be weird enough when the game starts on Saturday and he's not on the sidelines. Like even just like, yeah, the Twitter stuff, it's been weird. It's seeing the official account tweet out the birthday stuff was strange. But yeah, it's either going to be something that really galvanizes the team and brings them together, and it just pushes them to like, listen, like we we couldn't do it then. Let's at least do it now, like for his memory, for not that he's dead, but for this season. But it could also be something that, if they go down 10-0 in Kinnick, it could also be something that helps them fall off the rails really quickly. So it's a slippery slope there. It's something that's going to be the biggest challenge for Terry Smith for this week and the coming weeks, is navigating how do we pay honor to our feelings on this situation, opposed to we still have football games to play and all of your individual futures are still very heavily tied to the results of these games. So it's going to be an interesting tightrope for him to walk. And I mean, frankly, I don't think Terry Smith is going to be the next head coach at Penn State, but should he have head coach aspirations in the future for somewhere, this is going to be a really great experience for him to have on navigating stuff like this. So
Yeah. I'll read a quote from Terry Smith when he got asked about the temperature of the locker room. Every person in the Lash building, James Franklin brought them there, from the coaches to the staff to all the personnel in the building. He brought every one of us there. So there's an attachment to him. There's a sense of loyalty to him. Now it's my job to press us forward. It's my job for us to be where our feet are, be grounded right here, and be able to represent Penn State in a proud fashion. We've got to get our grittiness back, our toughness, our swag, and most importantly, we got to go have fun and enjoy playing the game of football. Just in general, listening to Terry Smith did make me want to run through a brick wall. But it was fascinating hearing him talk about that last thing and the need for this team, which, like you mentioned, Nick, is all there because they all love James Franklin. For this team to have to like find something that they didn't have and something that they kind of lost throughout the course of the season. And I think Terry had one or two other quotes kind of related to that. And I'm just really fascinated in seeing what that looks like. And if not just losing James, but also losing Drew Aller for the season, provide things that they can rally around and make it so. Yes, they're 3-3 right now. Yes, they're the worst part of their schedule to have to pick up a win. Just get something in Kinnick and you will be able to at least give you something to build on, which would be really nice. And we will talk about Penn State's trip to Kinnick here in a second. But before we do that, Nick, the coaching search. Well, I think we'll be doing a couple of just kind of temperature checks. We did kind of our preliminary thoughts on Sunday, but now that we've had a little bit of time to sit with it, to think about stuff that Pat Kraft has said about the coaching search, where do you land? Or have you been swayed in one direction or another over the last couple of days of, ruminating over this?
yeah, I mean, I'm still on Eli Drinkwitz being the ideal hire, just in terms of what he's done, how he's embraced NIL, quarterbacks he could potentially bring with him from Missouri that have obviously very strong Penn State and Pennsylvania ties. His ability to create fun offense in games in the SEC where you're up in a war pretty much every week. I think he remains the ideal candidate. I will say I've like I said at the top, I'm more encouraged or more optimistic that they will really go through a full truly national and truly exhaustive search through both college and the NFL. I know the betting favorite right now for the job is Joe Brady, Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. I still don't see that happening personally, but
So do you know? I think I know why that happened. Do you know why that happened?
because of the person that tweeted that said that Terry Pagula is the one that funded the buyout.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't a person who tweeted. let me make sure I got my Chris Felicia, the Bear from College Game Day, who is now over at Fox Sports. He did what I think happened was that he did his podcast and he was asked who you think like the best option would be. And he floated the Joe Brady, Bills, Penn State, Terry Pagula thing. And I think that's what ended up doing it.
Sure.
Joe Brady also one, like the Bills offense has just been kind of weird this year.
Yeah.
And it's been all built around for the last couple of years, but especially this year, it's been built around Josh Allen being God. And two, he's very clearly angling for like the Titans job or something. So I would put that one on the back burner.
Yeah, totally agree. But it does give me confidence that they will entertain other NFL options, which is interesting. We depending on who you ask, anyone from Dan Lanning to Kalen DeBoer to Ryan Day is a candidate for the job. I obviously certainly don't think that those are realistic options, but it's interesting to at least hear people float the ideas of something like Marcus Freeman, or again, don't think that's going to happen, but it's interesting hearing the wide range of names that have come up so far. I think it'll narrow back down before too long. I do think Eli Drinkwitz will be one of the top candidates. Maybe a guy like Mike Elko, Matt Rule obviously will be in there, but overall for me, like I think Drinkwitz remains the best fit, best candidate, and until there's a reason to think he is just totally disinterested or off the table, I think it's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah, I'm similar. I've really, as I really shoot over this, Drinkwitz is the guy that I would like. I'm warming up to the idea of Matt Rule, which is partially just I feel like me having to confront the reality. It's like how when I'm 88 years old, I will, become more open to the idea of dying. But I'm more open to the idea of Matt Rule right now, but it's very contingent on, are you going to bring Dylan Raiola with you? I'm very open to the idea of Eli Drinkwitz, in part because are you going to bring Bo Perbula or Matt Zollers with you? I'm very open. Let's see. Some other guys. I don't think Kenny Dillingham would bring Sam Levitt with him. I also don't know how realistic of a candidate he is, but or Matt Campbell, a guy like Matt Campbell, he could potentially bring Rocco Becht with him. Like, I think you don't have a lot of time with these turnarounds. I think you need to have a really good first year if you are going to take a new job, because you have to sell to fans, you have to sell to boosters, you have to sell to recruits, you have to sell to guys at the portal, that Penn State is a place where you could come and make an impact. And I partially base this on some quotes that Pat Kraft gave in his press conference, where he said, we'll find a coach who can achieve excellence at the highest level, doing it with confidence and conviction. Recruiting will always be a pillar here. We want someone who will attract elite talent, retain players in the NIL era, and make Penn State a destination. This is also about the modern era of college football. Our next coach needs to be able to maximize elite level resources, attack the transfer portal, and develop at the highest level. And what I did after that was I went and looked at the transfer portal rankings, the recruiting rankings for Nebraska, Missouri, and Penn State dating back to 2023, which would have been Matt Rule's first year in Lincoln. The two big takeaways that you have, one is that Penn State has the best recruiting class every year. In 2023, by 24/7, Penn State was 14th, Nebraska was 25th, Missouri was 35th. 2024, Penn State was 15th, Nebraska was 18th, Missouri was 20th. 2025, Penn State was 15th, Missouri was 20th, Nebraska was 22nd. Penn State's number one in all of those, but it's not a super big gap between Penn State and the team in second or the team in third. In the transfer portal, though, and transfer portal recruiting can be a little bit weird because, the number of guys you bring in really impacts where your ranking is. 2023, Nebraska was 28th, Missouri was 36th, Penn State was 53rd. 2024, Missouri was 13th, Nebraska was 50th, Penn State was 58th. 2025, Missouri was 7th, Nebraska was 13th, Penn State was 41st. I think that's a good look into why James Franklin is not Penn State's coach right now, just had a really tough relationship with the portal. But I also think that's a good glimpse into why Drinkwitz and Rule are two guys who can potentially make a lot of sense at Penn State because they are willing and are open to going into the portal, not just to patch up holes, but to use that as a real roster building way. So have you changed your thoughts on Matt Rule at all? Or are you still not exactly into the entire idea?
No, and I feel like I've probably sold more negativity on it than I intended to. It's not that I don't see a path to success with Matt Rule. I think there is a path to success with Matt Rule. I think he needs to nail his coordinator hires. I think he needs to get out of the way of his coordinators and, let them do their thing. And I think Pat Kraft very clearly seems to be angling to go the GM route. I think that would be helpful. Just allow Matt Rule to focus on what he knows. I very much can see it, bringing Dylan Raiola with him would obviously be helpful. So I can see the path to where Matt Rule can have success at Penn State. Like we talked about last time, there would be a lot of very happy alumni that would happily send some checks in.
Hope you'd like to think.
I would like to think.
I'm a little skeptical of that, but I would like that.
Yes. So I see the path to success there. It's just that it's not like I think we talked about last time how we want the coach coming in to kind of like have a thing to hang their hat on, like be this offensive mind. You're getting a dynamic offense with them, regardless of who the OC is even. And it's just like with Matt Rule, like I don't know what that thing is aside from he operates in a pretty similar way to James Franklin in terms of like he has built up 2 different programs now, or 3 different programs, you could argue, for Rule. So it's that's my only hesitation with him is that I wonder how high the ceiling is, but I can absolutely see a way that it works.
And yeah, going off of SP Plus this year, just I think that's a good way to measure this. Nebraska is 20th, 26th on offense, 18th on defense, 82nd in special teams. Penn State 18th, 20th on offense, 21st, and 10th on special teams. But if you take preseason priors out, and it's just off of this year, Nebraska is, let me find them here, 16th nationally in SP Plus, 20th offense, 26th defensively. Penn State 24th overall, 33rd on offense, 27th nationally. Missouri is actually in the top 10 in SP Plus in both of those, but they're 8th in both of them. So really good program there in Missouri. I would not hate to get their football coach. Do you know what else I also don't hate, Nick?
I'm going to guess it's home field apparel.
It is home field apparel, as evidenced by the fact I am wearing home field apparel right now. I am wearing one of my many Penn State hoodies from Home Field Apparel. Nick, you don't appear to have any home field apparel on. You appear to be pretty Mariners out.
Yes, not currently, although I was wearing my Penn State home field sweatshirt earlier today, the one that came in the kickoff box last year.
Oh, and the last year's kickoff. I think I have that one. But the big problem is I just have so much stuff from Home Field Apparel that I forget what I have. The thing is, even if they didn't sponsor our podcast, I would have a lot of stuff from Home Field Apparel. But because they do sponsor our podcast, I'm not going to tell you about them and let you know that some of the best gear that you can get your hands on as a college sports fan comes from our friends at Home Field Apparel, right out of Big Ten country. You want to support a small business in Big Ten country, Home Field Apparel is a really good one to do. You can get your hands on a little bit of anything from Home Field Apparel for the top down. They got hats, they got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got jackets, they got joggers, they got socks. Home Field Apparel has socks if you want to get your hands on a pair of socks. And they have it for college football, not college football necessarily, tons of collegiate athletic programs across the country. They have a lot of stuff from Penn State. I have a whole hell of a lot of stuff from their Penn State collection, but they have tons of things from other universities in case, say, you went to another school or you have a friend or a family member or, a coworker, you got to get something for Secret Santa. They got something for their school in all likelihood over at Home Field Apparel. And I would highly recommend that you go check out every single thing that they have. Make sure you go to homefieldapparel.com and see what Home Field Apparel has to offer. Again, go to homefieldapparel.com to check out what they have to offer. Thank you, as always, to Home Field Apparel for sponsoring the podcast. And Nick,
I have the socks.
Go ahead.
They're very comfortable.
I also have the sock. I'm not one of those people who splashes big on socks because they're socks, but I do like throwing those on every now and then. What I don't like, and a thing that I assume will not like the word throw in all that much, is Penn State's upcoming football game against the Iowa Hawkeyes. The Nittany Lions heading into Kinnick Stadium, led by Terry Smith and Ethan Grunkemeyer on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Game is on Peacock. It was going to be on Peacock even before Penn State's season imploded. So that's how you know the Big Ten ones and NBC want to make sure nobody is watching what should be a really disgusting football game. The Hawkeyes 4-2 on the season, 2-1 in Big Ten play, with wins over Rutgers and a very convincing win over Wisconsin last week, and their only loss coming at home to Indiana a couple of weeks ago in what was a really tight football game. Iowa 25th in SP Plus on the year, 55th offensively, 8th defensively, 28th in special teams. Nick, what are your overarching thoughts on Penn State having to go to Kinnick this week?
It's not great, but it's not like Iowa is, and this is if this is a typical like Iowa top 5 defensive team, it'd be worse, but they're not quite that this year. So it makes it a little bit better. Well, thinking about this game just from the Penn State side, I just want to see what their body language is like. I want to see, how hyped are they at the start? How do they react if they go down on the scoreboard? And then I'm really curious to see the personnel decisions in this game. Are we going to see Kobe Howard and Tyseer Denmark? Are we going to see AJ Harris? That's not a James Franklin thing, but we saw Terry Smith basically confirm that AJ Harris got benched last week in favor of Davian Collins and Elliott Washington after Harris gave up that touchdown. And AJ Harris, Pro Football Focus darling, a lot of people had him pegged as the number 1 cornerback for the upcoming draft. So that is a really fascinating dynamic to watch going into this game. Will we see Dom DeLuca? Will we see any of the young linebackers out there? So those are obviously, I would like Penn State to win. I'm really curious to see what they do personnel wise.
It's funny because if this game if you flipped the Iowa and Northwestern games, this would be like the perfect opportunity. Assuming Penn State would have lost last week, this would have been the perfect opportunity to start folding in some more guys at home, going up against a difficult opponent, but one that you might be able to get away with doing this, especially after you fire your coach. We talked on the last edition of the pod, Nick, about how one thing they're going to have to do is convince guys to stay, and playing time is a really easy way to get guys who might be part of whatever the long-term vision is to stick around. But unfortunately, Kinnick has this really nasty habit of making you learn a lot about yourself before you want to, as we know from when we saw Taquan Roberson have to step onto the field and play for the Nittany Lions, a couple of years ago in Sean Clipper's absence. I think Penn State has a pretty big problem in this game, Nick, and it's not something I think it's not something I think most Penn State fans are going to want to hear. Do you know what I'm going to mention?
It could be any number of things. Please enlighten me.
Iowa has 7 guys who have carried the ball at least 25 times this year. One of their quarterback, Mark Gronowski. Sacks are going to be folded into that, whatever. Of the remaining 5 guys, 3 of them are averaging at least 5 yards per carry. Because it's Iowa, they're not exactly getting a ton of explosives in their running game, but they could still run the ball on the ground. Their passing game isn't great. Gronowski hasn't really done a ton through the air, been efficient, not exactly throwing for touchdowns or big plays. But I think we are in for basically the exact same game Penn State played last week. And I don't know if you recalled, they didn't win that.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's going to look quite similar. I and we'll get to this more in a second with the offense. But yeah, it'd be when you fire a coach or a coach is removed for whatever reason, there's always kind of this like, I mean, Penn State just saw with UCLA. Like, do we really know what they're going to look like in this game? I don't think there's quite as much of that on Penn State's side in this game since they didn't change coordinators. We still have the same coordinators. There could be small differences here and there, but um, I agree. Like, I don't see them saying, "Hey, Grunk, go throw 40 passes in this game." Like, it's going to be a really similar script to what happened against Northwestern, and hopefully Penn State can find a way to be on the other side.
So let's do this podcast a little bit differently than we normally do. And just talk about the main thing that we want to see from Penn State as a team. Above everything else, what is the main thing that you want to see Penn State? This could be something as easy as like rotations. It could be something as easy as vibe. It could be something as easy as a very specific thing that you think they are going to have to do to win this game. What is the main thing that you want to see from Penn State on Saturday night in Kinnick, Nick?
Fun. I want to see them have fun. And I know that that's a tall task when you're feeling what you're feeling about letting your head coach down that got fired and all that. But at the end of the day, it is still a football game. It is still a game. And there are opportunities for them to have fun. There are opportunities for them to go silence a crowd or just revel in the booze and like have just, let me be clear, BOOS, not BOOZ. Just have fun being.
If they win, I hope they
Well, yeah,
are just
absolutely.
absolutely
Yeah.
throwing them back on the plane ride back.
Revel in the ZE too.
As long as they are of legal drinking age, of course, I would never advocate for doing that. If you are an outstanding young Christian man who represents the Pennsylvania State University but are not 21, please continue.
But yeah, I just want to see them have fun. I want to see the offense be fun and exciting. The offense has not been fun this year. It's just been a slog to watch. And I don't care. I don't really care all that much about how efficient they are. I don't really care about the big plays, any of that. I just want to see the guys having fun, and I want to have fun watching them because I have not had fun watching this offense this year. I don't know how likely that is, throwing redshirt freshman Ethan Grunkmeyer into the mix. I mean, he can run a little bit, so that's an interesting addition to this. Not that Drew couldn't run, obviously, but it's a bit different. Grunkmeyer has an arm. Like this was a legitimate 4-star talent. This is a blue chip recruit. We're not talking about some, just schmuck off the street or anything. So there's potential here for this offense to be able to do some fun things, but just offensively and defensively too. I want to see the sideline having fun. I want to see the coaches having fun. I don't want to see Andy Kotelnicki sitting there with his hand in his face on the broadcast every 15 minutes when they're on offense. Like, I want to see fun and excitement. That's the main thing for me.
I think that's fair. I mean, my big thing is like, I think they have to make life as easy as possible for Ethan Grunkmeyer. Penn State should not win this football game. Forget betting lines, forget like what ESPN's analytics say or what SP Plus say or anything like that. The fact of the matter is, Penn State is rolling into Kinnick with a redshirt freshman quarterback who has attempted 13 passes in his career and has thrown 1 touchdown. Like, they're not rolling in there with a guy who knows what he's doing. They are rolling in there with a guy who I'm confident knows the playbook, knows, the guys around him, all of that. But there's something when you are actually dropped into it, that is different. And when you are actually dropped into it at Kinnick Stadium, that's when you run the risk of a Taquan Roberson situation happening. With the difference being, it's not like next week Drew Aller is going to be able to play hurt like Sean Clifford did, partially because Penn State's on bye, but you know what I'm saying. So I want to see them make it life as easy as possible for Gronk. I want everyone, the offensive line, the running backs, the receivers, the defense, whatever, have his back, because we've seen how quickly a backup quarterback can spiral at Kinnick. I want to see Andy Kotelnicki calling the game like he has a quarterback that he needs to hold his hand a bit, and not in the way that like they kind of did with Drew Aller, where it was like, Drew, we're going to have you throw passes you're not necessarily great at, or we're going to have you be a bit of a square peg in a round hole in this offense. Like, I want Andy Kotelnicki to show that he's going to have to lean on his running game. He's going to have to lean on maybe the quick passing game. When opportunities are there for throw down the field, he's going to throw down the field. All of these sorts of things that you just kind of have to do with the backup quarterback. And then you mentioned fun, Nick, and I think there's something to that. I also think they really need to play with urgency. Like, it sucks because they've looked like a team that has had the weight of the world on them all year. I hate to say this. If Penn State doesn't win on Saturday night, they're not beating Ohio State, they're not beating Indiana. So that means Penn State would be 3-6 and 0-6 in conference play going into at Michigan State, Nebraska, and at Rutgers. And they'd need to win all three of those games, two of which are on the road, one of which is at home against a top 25 team, just to get bowl eligible. So it's a really tough balance to strike, because they need to make a bowl game. They need to be able to give their young guys the extra practices heading into next season, especially if they are going to right. And their new, their new coach, 15 more.
He wouldn't be coaching, but he can be around the team.
Yeah, and letting Ty Howell call plays for a game to see what he's doing, and have assuming Andy Kotelnicki goes off for a new job, and if Jim Knowles goes off for a new job or something, Dan Connor can call a defense. Like, just all of these little things, like, they got to make Grunk's life as easy as possible, and they got to show some urgency, and not in the way that we have seen it, where their urgency has like bitten them in the ass for a lot of this year and made them look scared. Like, if there's ever been a game where they can play with some like freedom, it's this one, after everything that's happened. And they kind of need to, because again, they really need a win. They really could, just to like feel good about themselves. They could really use a win on Saturday night. And a lot of that's going to come down to what Penn State does on the offensive side of the football against Iowa's defense. Nick, what is the main thing that you want to see out of Penn State's offense? Again, whether it's having fun, whether it's getting specific guys involved, whatever that might be.
Yeah, it's kind of a boring answer, but I would like to see the offensive line continue to show improvement. Thought that game against Northwestern was their best showing overall thus far. I would like to see them continue to take steps forward, not because it necessarily means anything for the future. I mean, after this year, Penn State's going to be was already going to be replacing 4 out of the 5 starters on the line. And then now with the whole new coach dynamic, who knows who stays, who goes beyond that. So it's not necessarily for the future, but just, show some, continue to show improvement so I can continue to trust Phil Troutwine as a potential continued offensive line coach going forward. And any offensive line success is obviously going to be paramount for the offense moving forward, allowing Ethan Grunkmeyer to get comfortable back there, allowing the run game to move the ball. I would still really like to see Kaytron Allen. I don't think it's going to be Nick Singleton at this point, but I would still really like to see Kaytron Allen get a crack at leaving Penn State as the all-time rusher. So anything the offensive line can do to kind of stabilize things would be big in my mind.
So for me, like, this is just all built around the passing game, because like it was clearly busted when Drew Aller was the quarterback, and a lot of trying to beat teams vertically. And that's not something that you're going to do in general against Iowa, let alone with a backup quarterback in. a really interesting thing about this game is that Iowa's defense is obviously a great defense. It's not like a top 2 or 3 unit in the country like it normally is. They've been struggling a bit, just a bit with being able to force turnovers like they are capable of doing. They have 4 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries on the season, which for Iowa, not exactly a ton. They have been able to get 2 quarterbacks, their top defensive lineman, Max Llewellyn, 5 sacks, a really good football player. But one thing they have needed to do that they haven't necessarily done a ton over the years is that, like, the ideal version of Iowa's defense is our 4 defensive linemen are able to get home, and the 7 guys behind them, whether it's zone or man or whatever it is, we are going to hurt your ability to pass. This year, they have had to blitz a bit more. They blitzed a ton against Indiana. Like, Indiana's big touchdown at the end of the game was basically because, like, they blitzed and Fernando Mendoza threw at it. That means they're going to try and speed up Ethan Grunkemeyer in a way that they don't normally try to speed him up. So I'm fascinated in, like, how much faith do they have? Does Andy Kotelnicki and the rest of the coaching staff have in him when he has to throw? We don't know the guys he wants to throw the football to. Like, we don't know who his eyes are immediately going to go to. And whether that's Luke Reynolds or one of the receivers or Khalil Dinkins or one of the running backs or something like that. If and when Iowa tries to bring pressure, how is he going to react to that? Is he going to be able to see that stuff early in the game? Because if I'm Phil Parker, I'm blitzing Ethan Grunkemeyer on the first, second, like every single potential drop back. I am bringing as much pressure as I possibly can until he shows he can beat me. And it's just like a really fascinating dynamic here, Nick, because, like, I trust Ethan Grunkemeyer more than I did Taquan Roberson when Penn State was in a similar situation a few years ago.
Yes.
That doesn't mean I think it's going to, like, go well, but there is a lot that's going to be on him specifically on Saturday night. It's a thing that he has never experienced before. And I'll tell you this, if he's able to swim and not sink, like, I'm going to feel really good about the next, maybe not the next 2 games after this, but the rest of the year for Penn State football.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think Iowa's defensive goal is absolutely going to be to try to put Grunkemeyer into as many decisions as possible, whether it's keeping the ball or giving it off on an option, scrambling, or waiting back. They're going to try to force him to make as many quick decisions as possible, where Andy Kotelnicki's job is to take away as many of those decisions as possible. His job is to scheme up pass plays where he can say with pretty good certainty, like, this guy is going to be open on this play. If he's not, go ahead, tuck and run. Like, we don't need to see Ethan Grunkemeyer working through 4 different progressions on any plays on Saturday night. That's not a reasonable thing to ask of him. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Like we said, talented kid, came in with good pedigree. He's gotten some game time. It's his 2nd year on the team. He knows the offense. He knows the playbook. So maybe he surprises us in that regard. But I absolutely agree that Iowa is going to be hell-bent on making him feel pressure, and both in terms of literal pressure and also in terms of pressured decision making. And if Grunk can show that he can beat that blitz and find the open man, hey, might be cooking. Might be a really fun night. So yeah, totally agree there.
Can I predict something that might be ridiculous, Nicholas?
Sure.
Grunk is going to hit a big play in the passing game to Nick Singleton. I don't know why I feel this way. I just think that they're going to be in a situation where I was going to throw everything at him, and he's going to one time complete a pass to Nick Singleton where let me quickly see how far Singleton's longest play is this year, which is going to be an upsetting thing to look at. It is 22 yards. Singleton is not just going to break that. It's going to at least double that. And it's going to lead to one of Penn State's probably not many touchdowns on Saturday night. This is a bit of a silly thing to, what's that?
I could see that.
I certainly hope it happens, because good Lord, does Nick Singleton need need something like that. But I think, yeah, a lot of Katron Allen to run the football to try and settle Penn State into the game. And then we'll see how they approach life with Ethan Grunkemeyer. Moving on to the other side of the football, Nick, the main thing we want to see from Penn State's defense. My hunch is this is going to be the exact same thing, but go ahead.
Trying to think of something that maybe wouldn't be my first thought. I want to see.
Okay.
I want to see the defensive line get some pressure. And maybe that is where you're going to, but I want to see. I want to see them just tell Chaz Coleman, like, hey man, just go after the quarterback. Like, if they run past you, whatever. Let's just see what this kid can do fully unleashed. Give him a chance to show off all his moves in what will hopefully not be an audition tape for other schools come portal time. Like someone, Dion Barnes just locked in Dennis Sutton in a room and just yell at him like, this is your NFL future. This is your NFL future. This is your NFL future, and over again until it spurns him into action and turns him into the player we know he can be. I want to see the defensive line create some chaos because Gronowski is not a good quarterback. He is not a good quarterback, and Penn State can take advantage of that, but they have to get pressure in order to do it.
I put in my notes, Jesus Christ, guys do not get eaten alive in the trenches. So we're kind of on the same page. Like, I expect them to run right at Dom DeLuca a lot. I expect them to run the ball over and over and over right at Dom. And an interesting thing, one of my buddies is an Ohio State fan, and he hit me with, oh, so I bet Jim Knowles didn't adjust. I bet he's not adjusting because Jim Knowles doesn't adjust. And I basically told him, like, Jim Knowles has tried a lot of stuff over these last couple of days, like done a lot of stuff over these last couple of games. If you go back and watch I think it was the first passing play that Northwestern had on Saturday. He had three linebackers. They brought Keon Wiley in, and it was Wiley with Campbell and DeLuca on the field. Wiley and Zaki Wheatley both came on a blitz off of the edge. So Penn State brought six guys in pressure, and they just could not get anywhere near Preston Stone. They brought a safety down. Sometimes it was Wheatley. A lot of times it was DeJuan Lane. They tried with three linebackers. They tried a lot of stuff, and they couldn't do much because they were just getting eaten alive in the trenches. So I am expecting Iowa to try that again. Penn State's defensive line has to be as disciplined and rock solid as ever. You have to limit the damage in Iowa's running game, and I think you can win this game because, like you mentioned, Gronowski hasn't exactly been, he was a really good quarterback at South Dakota. He completes a lot of passes for Iowa. He's at 65.4%, 5.7 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They're an Iowa passing offense, so usually it's a lot of short, and then maybe every now and then they could beat you over the top with something. If Penn State's defensive line especially can limit Iowa's damage in the running game, they can win this game. They can't let Iowa have extended drives. They cannot let Iowa get into field goal range because Iowa's probably not leaving too many points on the field. If it gets down to their kicker, even though Drew Stevens has missed a few kicks this season, I'm not particularly optimistic in how I think this game is going to go, Nick. I'll let you make the first prediction. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I was just trying to kind of scan my brain and see if I could remember the last time I actually predicted Penn State to lose on the podcast. Because no one's tracking these to my knowledge, so I can say whatever I want as far as predictions go. But I think this is probably like a 20-12 Iowa win, something like that. Real low scoring, mostly gross. I just it's hard to pick the alternative. Like your point, if this was at home, I might feel a little bit different. If if James Franklin hadn't been here for 12 years, I might feel different. Like if this had been firing a coach that had been here like 4 years, I might feel different. But there's just a lot. There's a lot going on in the Lash building for Penn State this week. And it wouldn't surprise me if they won, but I think they probably lose a pretty sadly pretty gross game overall.
It's interesting because I'm really down on Penn State's chances in this game, and a lot of it comes down to Iowa's ability to run the football and how committed I think Iowa is going to be to running the football and trying to heat Ethan Grunkemeyer up. And maybe this changes once the game starts and we see Penn State. I think we're going to be able to tell pretty quickly what kind of game we're in for.
Yes.
I think we're going to be able to tell right away, if Iowa gets the ball first and Penn State's defensive line is just firing off of blocks and their linebackers.
By the way, I cannot imagine any world in which, because if Penn State wins the toss, I cannot imagine they're going to want to put I cannot imagine they're going to want to put their offense on the field. So if Iowa wins this toss, there is no world in which Penn State's offense is not on the field first.
Yeah. If Penn State's defense is just firing and they're able to bottle up Iowa's running game right away and they look like a team that is playing for something, and then you come out other side, Penn State's offensive line is pushing them around a little bit. They're running the ball a little bit. Ethan Grunkemeyer doesn't look totally lost. I think it's possible Penn State doesn't just win this game, but they could run Iowa off the field. I think that's possible. I don't think
very much see it.
I don't think it's going to happen though, because I think UCLA and Northwestern and even Oregon to an extent, in all different ways, they've kind of showed the blueprint that you can keep Penn State's offense on the sideline, you can keep their defense on the field, and that is a game I think Iowa wants to play. I think Iowa wants to play that game very badly in general, and I think they're going to love playing that game against Penn State. I really hope I'm wrong here. I'm thinking the spread it opened to Iowa at 3.5. It's now down to Iowa at 2.5 as some money has come in, over under of 40.5. A weird thing with this Iowa team is that in Big Ten play, they've been able to score. They put up, and I don't know if defensive touchdowns are in here at all, but 15 points against Indiana, that's probably what you'd expect against Indiana. But against Rutgers, 38 points, they ran for 4 touchdowns. Against Iowa or Wisconsin, 37 points, ran for 4 touchdowns. Like, I think we're in for a tough evening as Penn State fans. I'm going to pick something like Iowa 27, Penn State 14. And I don't like that I picked that, Nick, because they really do need to win this football game.
Yeah, I very much agree that we are going to know how this game is going to finish after about 3 minutes of game time. I think it's going to be very clear.
Yes, I would completely agree with that. And let me tell you this: if Penn State wins this game, I am going to celebrate like they won the goddamn Super Bowl.
Yeah, it'd be very fun if they can show some. If they can show some life and be interesting, then with the bye week in between, I don't know, Ohio State could be fun.
It's just show some chutzpah, guys. Some as Jim Ross would say, some testicular fortitude. Like,
as a very quick side note, do we need to recalibrate how good we think Oregon is or isn't?
I
kind of think we might.
Let's see. What is Oregon's? Who do they play this week? This week, Oregon played. They might have maybe they have a bye. I don't know. But their next game is. Oh, it's on Saturday at Rutgers. Thankfully for them, it's not a noon kick, but I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot about Oregon in that game, because I don't think Rutgers is great, but I think they suck to play against, and they're annoying, and you have to go on the banks of the old Raritan, and we'll see
I
Because
kind of think that the Lanning's nightmares against Washington or might restart this year.
really,
Maybe.
Jed,
Washington's feisty.
Jed Fish, I'll say this guy, I've been surprised we haven't heard linked to the Penn State job. Do you know where he's from, Nick?
No, but what I keep hearing about him is that once Florida officially opens, that's gonna be a big one.
He did go there. He is from the place where I was born, Livingston, New Jersey. So a little surprised we haven't seen something linking him to Penn State based on that. But we will, I'm sure, in the next couple of months that we have, I'm sure at some point someone is going to say, "Hey, keep an eye out for Jed Fish," because like this Penn State job is going to get a lot of people paid a lot of money. But we'll see what happens. Nick, any final thoughts before I send the people off to the rest of their week?
Let's just have some fun this weekend, boys. Let's do it.
I hope so. Sure hope so. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this edition of Roar Lions Roar. As always, make sure you go and subscribe to us on whatever your podcasting platform of choice is, whether it's if it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We get, it's really helpful for us if you could leave us a 5-star review. Even if you just want to give us 5 stars, leave us 5 stars. That'd be really helpful. TBD on the YouTube, but we're going to be using YouTube a little bit more frequently. So go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us over there. We really had fun doing the live show after Franklin lost.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was fun.
It was fun.
The subject matter wasn't.
Yes.
Make sure you're following us on Twitter and on Blue Sky. And of course, as always, thank you to our friends at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com and make sure you get something for you or the college sports fan in your life. One last time, thank you everyone for listening to this edition of Roar Lions Roar. For Nick Pollock, I'm Bill DeFilippo. Take care, everyone.
Go State, go Mariners.